What if the real reason your life still feels heavier than it should has nothing to do with your job, your routine, your relationships, or even your past? What if the true weight you're carrying is invisible and sitting inside your mind right now? Let me ask you a question most people avoid. How much of your thinking is actually yours? Because here's the uncomfortable truth almost nobody wants to admit. Most people are not living overwhelmed lives. They are living overloaded minds. Minds cluttered with noise they didn't choose, opinions they absorbed without noticing, fears that aren't even theirs, and mental habits running like background apps draining their battery. And yet, awakened minds notice this instantly. Most people never do. You've felt it before, that strange sense that the world is speeding up, that everything is louder than it should be, that your thoughts feel crowded even when your environment is quiet. You feel tired, but not physically. It's a different kind of tired, the fatigue that comes from carrying too many thoughts that don't belong to you. And deep inside, whether you admit it or not, you know something is off. This is where the concept of mental minimalism enters the scene. Not as a trendy idea, not as a productivity hack, and definitely not as another version of think positive. Mental minimalism is a habit, a quiet, powerful habit that separates the people who rise in life from the people who remain stuck, repeating the same emotional loops year after year. Most people assume their minds are in default mode, simply reacting to life. Awakened minds realize the opposite. Your mind is programmable. Your inner world is editable. The noise isn't destiny, it's a habit. And once you see that, everything changes. But here's where your story begins to diverge from the masses. Because if you're here, watching this, something in you is already different. You don't want a louder life, you want a higher one. One with clarity instead of chaos, intention instead of reactivity, awareness instead of autopilot. But clarity comes at a cost. And that cost is the courage to look at the noise you've been avoiding. Let me show you something most people never learn. Your mind has two layers, the surface layer, where thoughts appear and disappear, and the underlayer, where your mental habits live. And while most people try to fix their life by rearranging the surface, awakened minds go underneath, because it's not the amount of information you consume that overwhelms you. It's the fact that you consume it without filtering. It's not the number of people in your life that drain you. It's the emotional noise they carry and you absorb, mostly without permission. Noise is not volume. Noise is misalignment. It's the mismatch between the life you want to live and the mind you're using to live it. And the reason mental minimalism is so powerful is simple. When you reduce noise, you increase perception. And when perception increases, your decisions sharpen. And when your decisions sharpen, your entire life begins to rise. Quietly, consistently, unmistakably. Think about it like this. Your mind is a lens, and the lens is either dirty or clean. Most people keep trying to change the world outside the lens, instead of cleaning what's in front of their eyes. They push harder. They hustle more. They add more tasks, more strategies, more complexity. They keep increasing the volume, when the real transformation happens the moment you lower it. This is why so many people are busy but not progressing. They're full, but not fulfilled. They're mentally active, but not mentally awakened. Now pause for a moment and look back at your own life. How many decisions were made from noise? How many thoughts you believed were actually emotional echoes from someone else? How many situations drained you simply because you didn't realize you were carrying more mental weight than the situation itself? If this hits a nerve, good, because it means you're awake enough to see the problem. And once you can see it, you can change it. But let me warn you, this is not a comfortable process. When you start reducing mental noise, you begin noticing things others miss. You start seeing patterns behind people's behavior. You start feeling the emotional climate of a room the moment you enter. You recognize when something feels off, even if nothing obvious is wrong. Your intuition sharpens. Your awareness heightens, and while everyone else is stuck in their loops, you begin rising above them. Internally first, externally later. It's not magic, it's perception. And perception is the superpower that unlocked your next level. But before we go deeper, you need to understand something essential. Mental minimalism is not about having fewer thoughts. It's about removing the unnecessary ones, the ones that distort your clarity, drain your energy, and sabotage your intuition, the ones that are not truly yours. And once you start stripping away the noise, you'll notice something extraordinary. Your mind becomes quieter, but your life becomes louder. Your awareness expands, your decisions align, your purpose sharpens, your internal compass wakes up. But this is only the beginning. The doorway. Because now that you've seen the noise, you need to learn how to dismantle it. And that's where we go next. Now that you've stepped through the doorway and seen the noise for what it is, we need to talk about the part that most people never face. Noise doesn't disappear on its own. You have to confront it. And this is where the masses get stuck. Not because they're incapable, but because silence is uncomfortable when you're used to living inside mental chaos. Noise feels familiar. Noise feels busy. Noise feels productive, even when it's destroying you. Awakened minds, though, learn the opposite. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is data. When you quiet the outer world, you begin hearing the inner world. Your real thoughts, your real instincts, your real desires. But you also hear the distortions you've been carrying for years. Those things you dismissed as just how I am. Those emotional habits that shape your perception more than any external event. This is why mental minimalism is not about achieving peace. It's about achieving accuracy. Let me show you something deep, something most people go their entire lives without realizing. Your mind processes reality in layers. The first layer is what you see. The second is what you feel. The third, the one almost nobody notices, is the interpretation your mind makes before you're even aware of thinking. This third layer is where your noise lives. It's where your fears appear as intuition, where your past disguises itself as logic, where your emotional wounds masquerade as personality traits, where your biases dress up as instincts, where your unhealed patterns whisper suggestions you mistake for truth. That's the noise awakened minds learn to detect. Because until you remove the distortions in that third layer, you're not seeing reality, you're seeing filters. Mental minimalism is the art of cleaning your filters. And the first step is understanding the 3 types of noise that sabotage your clarity. The first type is absorbed noise. This comes from the world around you, the opinions, the expectations, the cultural scripts, the emotional baggage of people you interact with. You pick up this noise the way a sponge picks up water, silently, unintentionally, and more than you realize. If you've ever walked into a room and immediately felt drained, or spoken to someone and left heavier than before, or consumed information that left you anxious instead of informed, that's absorbed noise. The second type is internal noise, the chatter created by your own patterns, every unfinished emotion, every fear you avoided, every belief you accepted without questioning, every assumption you made out of habit. They all sit inside you, running scripts you're not aware of. And then there's the most dangerous one, inherited noise, the noise that doesn't even belong to your life story. It belongs to your lineage. The fears passed down through family dynamics, the emotional responses modeled unconsciously, the scarcity reflexes you learned before you could speak. Awakened minds are the first in their families to break these patterns because they are the first to notice them. But here's the twist. You don't eliminate noise by fighting it. You eliminate noise by disidentifying from it. Instead of asking, how do I stop thinking this? You begin asking, why did this thought appear? What part of me generated it? What is the source of this signal? Is this mine or did I absorb it? In that moment, you become the observer, not the reactor, the architect, not the sponge. This is where mental minimalism starts feeling like a superpower. Because once you learn to separate your true signal from external noise, 3 things happen immediately. First, your intuition skyrockets. Because intuition is not mystical, it's perception without interference. Second, your emotional triggers disappear faster than you expect. Because most emotional triggers are not reactions to events, they are responses to internal noise being activated. And third, your life begins reorganizing itself almost effortlessly. Because when your inner world becomes aligned, your outer world follows quietly, consistently, without dramatic force. But there's another layer, a deeper one, the part people don't talk about. When you start removing noise, you stop tolerating what you used to accept. You stop allowing low-frequency conversations. You stop entertaining chaotic energy. You stop negotiating your peace. You stop forcing yourself into environments that shrink your awareness. And this is where the awakened path gets uncomfortable. Because while you rise in clarity, others stay where they are. And they will feel the difference. Some will admire you. Some will misunderstand you. Some will feel threatened by you. Not because you change too much, but because your clarity exposes their noise. And yet, this separation is not rejection. It's calibration. When your frequency rises, your environment adjusts. It's not a loss, it's alignment. But none of this is the final jump. There is a stage of mental minimalism deeper than silence, deeper than clarity, deeper than awareness. The stage where your mind stops being a battlefield and becomes a compass. Where noise is no longer something you fight, but something you instantly detect. Where decisions stop feeling like effort and start feeling like recognition. Where your life begins taking shape from the inside outward. And that is where we are going next. Because if the first step is noticing the noise, the next step, the step that changes everything, is learning how to remove it without losing yourself. Now that you understand the layers of noise inside your mind, here's the part that turns awareness into evolution. Removing noise is not about emptying your mind. It's about choosing what stays, because a higher life doesn't begin when you add something new. It begins when you subtract everything that dims who you really are. This is the moment where awakened minds separate from the rest, not through superiority, not through ego, but through intention. The masses wait for peace to arrive. Awakened minds create it. The masses wait for life to slow down. Awakened minds slow themselves down. The masses think clarity is a rare moment. Awakened minds make clarity a daily practice. And that's the secret behind mental minimalism. You're not trying to control your thoughts. You're controlling your inputs. Once you shift your attention from "what should I think" to "what am I allowing inside my mind," your entire reality reorganizes itself almost automatically. Let's make it practical. When you reduce noise, you begin seeing patterns in your own life. You notice how certain conversations drain you more than they inspire you, how some people activate confusion while others activate clarity, how certain types of information expand your awareness while others shrink it. And suddenly, you're no longer negotiating your mental energy, you're protecting it. This is where you begin upgrading your internal operating system. Not in theory, not in abstraction, but in small decisions repeated consistently. You choose what to consume. You choose what to ignore. You choose what to build. You choose what to release. You redefine the architecture of your mind. And here's the shift most people never experience. When you remove noise, you naturally elevate your frequency. Your creativity returns. Your intuition sharpens. Your confidence stabilizes. Your emotional boundaries strengthen. Your decisions become cleaner. Your sense of self becomes unmistakable. Because without noise, you finally hear yourself. This is why awakened minds don't need to force success. They align with it. Success becomes less about effort and more about clarity. Life stops feeling like resistance and begins feeling like direction. You no longer chase purpose. You recognize it. But here's the final truth, the one that defines whether your life changes or stays the same. Mental minimalism is not a moment. It's a habit, a daily habit, a conscious choice to remove the clutter that keeps you small and protect the clarity that makes you powerful. Because the difference between a noisy mind and an awakened one is not intelligence, talent, or luck. It's maintenance. Awakened minds maintain their inner world the way others maintain their physical space. They clean, they filter, they update, they release. They choose every day in small ways. And here's what happens when you live like this consistently. Your mind becomes a sanctuary. Your decisions become a compass. Your perception becomes a superpower. Your awareness becomes a guide. Your inner world becomes bigger than your outer chaos. You don't just remove noise. You become the kind of person who naturally rises above it. And once you reach that place, life stops being something that happens to you and becomes something you shape with intention. This is the habit that unlocks a higher life, not by teaching you how to think, but by teaching you how to protect the mind that thinks. So here's your invitation, not from me, but from your future self. Start small. Start today. Start by choosing one area of mental noise to release. Remove one source of confusion. Protect one moment of clarity. Say no to one draining input. Say yes to one insight that pulls you higher. Because the life you want isn't waiting for more effort. It's waiting for less noise. Awakened minds notice this instantly. Most people never do. But you didn't arrive here by accident. You arrived because something in you is ready to rise. And now, you know exactly how. Subscribe, stay close, and keep walking with us. This is Human Wave, where awakened minds rise into a life of wholeness and fulfillment.